I think it's necessary to give earlier introduction to this whole thing of what happened with the stealing of the books. Who stole it? Why did they steal it? What right did they have? You have to go back a little bit earlier in history. The previous Rebbe had 3 daughters. Okay? The oldest daughter, her name was Chana, who married Rashag, Reb Shmayo Gerari, who was the Rebbe's brother, and he was the head of the yeshiva. And then there was the Rebbe Tzedakah Yemushka, who married the Rebbe. And then there was a younger daughter by the name of Sheina, or Sheina as they called her, and she was married to a cousin, Menachem Mendel Hardenstein. He was a Kohen, he was related to the Rebbe Marash's family. They were mamish all family. The Rabbi Gerari wasn't family, but Chana, the oldest daughter, married Rashag, Reb Shmayo Gerari. The second daughter, Rebbe Tzedakah Yemushka, married the Rebbe, and the third daughter married this guy Menachem Mendel Hardenstein. The Hardensteins were killed by the Nazis during World War II. So they're out of the picture, so to speak. Now, the Rebbe had no physical children like we know, and the Rashag and Chana had one son by the name of Sholem Ber, who was known as Berke. Berke is short for Sholem Ber. After the previous Rebbe passed away, there was by the Chassidim there was no question that the Rebbe is going to become Rebbe, is Rebbe, should be Rebbe, without any question. But Chana wanted that her husband should become Rebbe because he was the oldest son-in-law. He's the oldest son-in-law, he has the right to become. So the bottom line is, the Chassidim it wasn't even a question, okay? So finally, after much pushing, and the Rebbe became Rebbe. It was also in large part because of the Rebbe Tzedakah Yemushka. The Rebbe kept pushing it off. He said that I never got a sign from my father-in-law, and various different things. They say the Rebbe Tzedakah Yemushka told the Rebbe that if you don't accept the leadership, everything my father did and all the Rebbeim did until now are going to go pustin both empty. It's going to become nothing. So you better accept the leadership, which for her was a tremendous sacrifice, and the Rebbe was never home. And she carried a big burden. But the Rebbe didn't have any children. So after the previous Rebbe passed away, Chana, their oldest daughter, and Berke wanted the Rashag to become Rebbe, not the Rebbe. The Rebbe became Rebbe. So there was always this animosity going on between them and the Rebbe, to the extent that even when Berke got married, he didn't invite the Rebbe, his uncle, to the chasana. The Rebbetzin was invited, the Rebbe wasn't invited. That's how far it went.
Was it from wedding?
Yeah.
He was from?
Yeah, well, then he was. Afterwards he wasn't. But anyway.
What was the wedding? In America?
I don't remember what year.
In America.
Huh?
In America.
In America, yeah. In fact, he learned in Torah Vadas. Berke learned Torah Vadas. He didn't learn about it. It was too complicated issues. He learned in Torah Vadas. It's not for now. It's not what Teves. It's just an understanding of what's going on, to understand what happened in Teves, the pre-Teves thing. So this Berke was obviously not a chassid of the Rebbe in any way whatsoever. His wife happened to be the daughter of a great chassid, Berel Chaskind, who was one of the Filig Rebbe's secretaries, a very great chassid. But whatever, his daughter married Rashag's son, and this was the story. So he wasn't a Lubavitcher in any way whatsoever. Now, in Tavshin Memhei, in 1945, it was around Yud Shvat time. So it was either the end of 44, 45, depending, how January works in those days. So the librarian in the Friedrich Rebbe's library, which was downstairs in 770, noticed that books are missing. And they were trying to figure out who, because nobody had access to it, except a few people. And they put in cameras and they caught him red-handed, or like the Rebbe said, one time he walked out with the books and people saw him. It was unquestionably, Barakah was the one that took it. And he said, listen, the Friedrich Rebbe passed away. He had 2 daughters left. This daughter has no kids. This daughter has a kid, me. I can inherit at least 50% of the Friedrich Rebbe's assets belong to me. 50% belong to the Rebbe's Chaim Mushka. 50% belong to my mother. And therefore at least 50%. So I have a right to take whatever I want. And he was selling them. He took very expensive books. He took rare books. And he sold them in Israel, and it was a lot of money.
How many? 400?
There were 400 books he took. Now...
So he took for a long time.
No, 1 second. So then, in the summer, in the off time, that's when they were aware of it and who took it. So they started talking to him to give back the books. And he said, I'm not giving them back. They're mine. They offered him to go to a din Torah. They offered him to go to din Torah. You know, from me, you can go to din Torah. He refused. So they got a heter from the Rosh Yeshiva in Lubavitch, Rabbi Pekarsky, who personally wasn't the Lubavitcher, the Rosh Yeshiva of Lubavitch, Rabbi Pekarsky, Kreiman's grandfather-in-law. And he told him that you're allowed to go to court. If he refuses to go to a din Torah, then you're allowed to go to court. And it went into court. And it took a battle, and there was a Goyish judge, Staten, his name was a non-Jew. And the Rebbe spoke about that by Sichas later on, that because he was a Goy, he didn't even have Bechira. So what happened was, this is actually, you know, Min HaShemayim, what's going to happen. I'm just going to say the story, and then we'll talk how it applies to us, you know, in today's day. So what happened was, they started getting documents ready. And there was a certain document. So what was the question basically? Simply, the Rebbe said, the books of the previous Rebbe, his objects, don't belong to him as a private person that you can inherit. It belongs, as the Rebbe said, Agudas Chasidei Chabad, which is the umbrella organization of the whole Chabad movement. So the Rebbe said, it's not yours, it's not the previous Rebbe's personal library that you can inherit as a grandson. It wasn't his, it belongs to the Chassidim. And he said, no, it belongs to the Rebbe. It belongs to the Rebbe. So I'm not going, the court case started until they got everything ready. This is a Tov Mem Hey, Yud Shvat is when they started noticing books were missing. They caught the guy in the summer of Tov Mem Hey. The trial started Yutes Kislev, Yutes Chof Kislev, Tov Mem Vov, the next year. Okay, this is from the summer to like 5 months later in Tov Mem Vov. And the Rebbe said then, the Rebbe had a meeting with the lawyers. First, the Rebbe screamed at the Chassidim, why is this my business? This should be your business. Why am I b'chal getting involved? I'm not a lawyer. It's not my issue. You want to ask a question in Rambam, you can ask me. You want to ask me a question in the Friedrich Rebbe's discourses, you can ask me. I'm not a lawyer. Why aren't the Chassidim doing anything about this? Why aren't the Chassidim? The Rebbe was screaming, why aren't the Chassidim? The Rebbe had a meeting with the members of Agudas Chasidei Chabad, the board of Agudas Chasidei Chabad, and the Rebbe had a meeting with the lawyers. We got lawyers on that Lewin and Shustak, and a whole bunch of big lawyers. And the Rebbe had meetings with them. And the Rebbe told the lawyers, number one, I want you to work as lawyers, not as Chassidim. I mean, I want you to do your job. You're getting paid. The Rebbe said, I'm paying you. I don't want any... You're working as a regular, typical case. I want you to work the best you can. The Rebbe told them that there's a letter that the previous Rebbe wrote when he came to America to a professor, Dr. Marx. Now this Dr. Marx was the librarian of the Jewish Theological Seminary, which is the big conservative movement. They have one of the biggest libraries in the world of Judaism. And this guy was the librarian of that library. And he had connections with obviously libraries all around the world. When the Friedrich Rebbe came to America, a lot of his farm didn't come out yet. The ones from Poland didn't come out. The ones from Russia, the Rebbe said he took out. but the ones that were in Poland, because he was in Poland for a while, didn't come back. So the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote a letter to this Professor Marx, asking him to please see what you can do to get the books of the library that belonged to Agudas Chassidei Chabad. The previous Rebbe wrote clearly in this letter that the library belongs to Agudas Chassidei Chabad. It wasn't a personal thing. So the Rebbe told the lawyers, I want you to use that letter as a critical piece of proof. And the lawyers didn't agree with that, really. They said, no, we have to do it. The Rebbe said, I want you to use this thing. But during the whole trial, every day, you see it on the movie, but I was here then, but I remember the story. Every day of the trial, the Rebbe went to the oil. For 3 weeks, the trial took. Every day, the Rebbe went to the oil. Meaning he didn't eat, because the Rebbe didn't eat before going to the oil. Meaning the Rebbe fasted 3 weeks straight, except eating a little bit at night. The Rebbe went every day to the Chassidim. There were Chassidim that got up at Minyan, and Minyanim got up every morning early and said the whole Tillim, and they went to the court and they went to the oil. It was a big thing. When at the beginning of the case, I'm going off a little bit, but the Rebbe, I know my uncle was very involved, Rabbi Krinsky was very involved in the Sodom, because he was the head of Aguch, and whatever, but the Rebbe personally was very involved of that stuff. So he asked the Rebbe a question so the Rebbe says, Moshe Rabbeinu, this is what the Rebbe said to him, Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of the Jewish people. He sustained the Jewish people physically and spiritually. But you know what? They also needed a Pinchas. When Pinchas came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, so Moshe Rabbeinu said, it's not me, you go do it. So the Rebbe said to them clearly, don't ask me, do this. And the Rebbe said to my uncle that you are a chassid of the previous Rebbe. The Rebbe never considered anybody his chassidim. You're a chassid of the previous Rebbe, and I'm sure you went into Yechidas for your bar mitzvah, and I'm sure you got a bracha from the Frierdiker Rebbe, so you'll be successful. You'll be matzliach, you'll be successful in what you're doing. So go do it. Later, right away what happened was they had to get a restraining order. They had to get a restraining order to stop him taking books and selling books, and everything should be put away in a bank, under government protection. So he didn't ask the Rebbe. He went straight to the lawyers, and the lawyers said 100% we could do it. By the way, that's not going. Just for the record, any restraining order that you give to somebody is not a din of going to court. So you're allowed to give a restraining order without getting a heter from a bezdin to go to court, because it's not called going to court. You're just stopping them from doing what they did. Afterwards, he told the Rebbe that we got a restraining order. The Rebbe was very happy and told the Rebbitzin. Called the Rebbitzin and told her that the restraining order, so that stopped. So what happened was like this. So then, the Rebbe went to the oil every day, and the Rebbe was extremely, extremely tense. You saw the way it mamish affected the Rebbe's health. It was a terrible way, and we'll explain soon why. It's not stam books, it's a whole different issue over here. I'm just telling the story, and then we can learn the various different lessons from the story. So afterwards, the judge, after 3 weeks, he said he's going to give out the decision in a few months. What happened was, he got involved in a very big case that took away a lot of his time, so he didn't give out the results until the 5th of Teves. 8 Teves when he get out of it. But what happened was like this. Along the way, they wanted to depose the Rebbe. They wanted to give the Rebbe deposition. Now, whoever had a deposition, I never had one, but from people that they rip you apart and they catch you on words and they make you, it's very degrading. So, first of all, they asked the Rebbe, my uncle was talking to the Rebbe about deposing the Rebbitzin. They wanted to depose the Rebbitzin as the daughter. So, my uncle asked how much should we fight to get the Rebbetzin out of that position, and the Rebbe said, no, let her be deposed, she's going to do very well. She's going to do very well. And at the end, the Rebbe used the expression, she passed with flying colors. The Rebbe used the expression, she passed with flying colors. The deposition was in the Rebbe's home, in the kitchen with the Rebbetzin, 3 of the other side's lawyer, 2 of this side's lawyers.
And a doctor.
Huh?
And a doctor.
And that was because she wasn't 12. That was just just for health purposes. At the end of the deposition, and the deposition wasn't going very well for the other side, because she was answering so well that the other side they were very depressed in this whole deposition. Finally, after the official deposition was over, their lawyers asked the Rebbetzin, we mentioned the Shabbos, they asked the Rebbetzin, who did the books belong to? The Chassidim or your father? So the Rebbetzin said, not only did the books belong to the Chassidim, but my father belonged to the Chassidim. When the lawyers heard this, they threw down their pencils and discussed. They said, oh my God, this is terrible. For them, it was terrible. And then after she passed away, the Rebbe mentioned it. And by the way, afterwards, she turned to my uncle and she said, he belongs to the Chassidim, the books belong to the Chassidim, and she turned to him and said, accept his talis and tefillin.
So what?
Accept his talis and tefillin. That belonged to him.
Oh, that was the only thing he
The only thing that he had was his talis and tefillin. So,
Where is the Thousand Spoon now?
Yeah,
Is that now
it's in the
library?
Friedrich Rebbe's library. In the
How did the other side get financial to fight it?
evil always has money.
So apparently somebody's supporting it.
There were people supporting it.
Oh, there were.
Not Lubavitchers, but
Unless they make a lot of money from all these books.
Yeah, the Baal Shem Tov said there.
yeah, but he didn't. The Baal Shem Tov said, I don't think he sold it. Anyway, 1 second. There's a few more things I wanted to say about the case, and then
Did he get all the books back? I think all.
they got all the books back because the Rebbe said 3 people went in, 2 people changed their mind when they saw they were caught, but he continued because he said, I'm a grandson. I can.
What is this 3 people?
Yeah, who are the other 2?
I don't know. I can assume. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to say names that I don't know. So then, by the way, when the judge read the Rebbetz's deposition, Bechlal, they say the Sutton was a very brilliant man. He's still alive. He's very brilliant, and he showed no emotion during the trial. Bechlal, you couldn't tell where he's at in the trial.
His name was Sutton?
Sutton.
The Sutton is
What?
oh. Because the Sutton is
Sifton. Okay.
Passed away.
Okay, he passed away already. Good. Anyway, by the way, when they read this deposition to the judge,
Whose deposition is
the
that?
Rebbetzins' deposition to the judge, and when they played at the end what the Rebbetzin said, that everything belongs to, the judge said, remarkable. The judge said, remarkable. Because it was a remarkable thing. But the Rebbetzin, the own daughter said that, that he belongs to the Chassidim. Okay, so that's, then they appealed it, and then there was an appeal, whatever it was, and then the case. So they got back all the books. The Rebbe said
They
should.
deposed the Rebbe too, didn't they?
Oh, they wanted to depose the Rebbe, and the Chassidim did it was a lot of work not to get the Rebbe deposed. And the Rebbe told my uncle, if they want, he said, I will testify. Means he'll be deposed. And my uncle said, this is all read. He didn't tell me anything about this. It's all read in the things. He said to the Rebbe, he said he never knew how he had the chutzpah to say what he said. He said, Rebbe, that's not happening. The Rebbe said, I'm willing to testify. He said to the Rebbe, that's not happening. It's just not going to happen. And the Rebbe looked at him, didn't say anything, no reaction. He just looked at him, and that's it. Okay, l'chaim. Everybody say l'chaim. No, let's go.
Barry's still living?
Who?
Barry's still living?
Barry passed away.
Passed away? How old was Barry when he passed away?
He lives in New Jersey.
He was 6?
Nobody really cares.
He passed away.
Okay, no, start ending.
Broken heart.
No.
It was a bumble. The bumble was detonated.
Ding dong, no.
No, it's something better. La ya 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 da da di da no ta la da la da di da la la da la 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 L'chaim. First of all, I want to wish you, Hudas Greenberg, a happy birthday. Tonight's her birthday. Be a shnas hatzlacha in all your endeavors.
Tell me what it tastes like.
Looks good.
To be a successful year in everything. You should continue your holy work that you do. Should be a year of simchas and good things. L'chaim. Huh?
It's not Bear's birthday tonight, so why don't you say something? Hey, mother's birthday, you should say something. Come on.
Well, she told me it's his birthday. I'm going to buy her a cake. Happy birthday to Epson Pe'er also. Happy birthday. Are you bas mitzvah yet, both
Where's
of you?
the cake?
Chaim.
They're getting there.
Okay, let's see. Okay, like we always try to do. How is this relevant? How is this relevant today? So we're going to go through a few things. Obviously, you can talk for years about all this stuff, what happened. And the simcha that the Rebbe had for 7 days afterwards. The Rebbe spoke sichos after Teves. The Rebbe spoke sichos every night. The first year the Rebbe said, on Teves, the Rebbe said, it's an auspicious time. Yeah. Whoever wants to write something to the previous Rebbe, to the oil, the Rebbe said, I'm going to go, and I'm not going to be able to read everybody's letter there. You can write whatever you want. Nobody's going to read it. I'm just going to bring it there. And the Rebbe said, whatever you want will be answered. The Rebbe was murdered. It was like an auspicious time. The Rebbe said, write whatever you want, and it will be great things. That's how great the Teves. And we'll explain why. We'll start from the easier to the more, not complicated, but the more intense things. When the Rebbe told somebody, the people, that there's a Moshe Rabbeinu, but there's also a Pinchas. The Rebbe once spoke by Kinnis HaShluchim. There's a concept called an Eved, a slave, and a concept called a Shliach. An Eved, a slave, has no opinion of its own. Like we find in the Gemara, in the story of Kamsa bar Kamsa, when Marsa's Basbaitis, the wealthy woman, sent her Evet to buy fine flour. And he came back and said they didn't have fine flour, they had medium flour. And she said to him, go buy medium flour. He came back and said there was no medium flour. How dumb can you be?
Get the other one.
I mean, get the other one, you know. And Evet had no brains of their own, so to speak. What the master told them to do, they did. There was no using your own brains. A shliach, the Rebbe explained on the other hand. In other words, an Evet is bottled to the master. A shliach is the power of the sender. But what's the difference between Evet and shliach? A shliach has to use his own brains. He's given a mission. The mission has to be done and accomplished. You know that you're not going with your own powers, you're going with the power of the sender. But nevertheless, you need to use your own judgment. And as the Rebbe said, I'm not spoon-feeding shluchim. I'm not spoon-feeding the chassidim when it came to the trial of Teves. Use your own brains. I'm giving you the general guidance. The Rebbe gave the general guidance when he met with the chassidim and we met with the lawyers. And the Rebbe said, I don't want to be asked questions about what's going on. Why? Because the Rebbe wanted the chassidim to use their own seichel. Which is a very important lesson, by the way, in serving Hashem. In serving Hashem. No, that's for me. Thank you.
Nine.
No,
Is there a sodium in it?
Yeah, how much sodium is it?
How much sodium is it?
It's his lucky day.
That's a white brownie.
don't be jealous and don't look.
Pass it on.
You have to put a napkin like by Kiddush. You have to cover there. So what does it mean for us? The Rebbe by the trial taught us. This is in passing, so to speak. It's not the main issue of the trial. The Rebbe in passing taught us something very simple. You have a mission to accomplish. The mission is given to us by the Eibishter, by Hashem. By Chassidim, how do we know what Hashem wants us to do? So that's why we have a Rebbe that tells us what Hashem wants from us. He knows what's going on up there. He has eyes, Einei Ha'eda, the eyes of the community. The Rebbe has eyes to see what Hashem really wants. Of course you have to keep off Torah mitzvahs. But certain times you need to specify this and that to know what to need and what to do. So the Rebbe gives us guidelines, and that's what we need to follow. But when it comes to the detailed issues of life, we have to be able to make our own decision. And what did the Rebbe say? You got a bracha from the previous Rebbe. That is enough that you can be guided to use your brain in the right way. Think about it. That's what the Rebbe is saying, basically. You got a bracha from the Friedrich Rebbe for your bar mitzvah. So if that's the case, then he gives you a bracha that you should think correctly about what to do. And therefore, when a chassid is faced with a dilemma, the first thing they need to do is, what would the Rebbe want me to do in this case? But bottom line is, we need to use our own discrepancy to know what to do and what not to do and when to do it and how to do it. The Rebbe says, I'm not spoon-feeding chassidim. I'm not going to spoon-feed you. I'm giving you the general guidelines. You are a person, you have a brain, use it. And that's b'chlal in life, what we need. We have the guidance of Torah, the guidance of the Rebbe. The Rebbe guides us, Torah guides us, the Rebbe tells us how Torah guides us. But the bottom line of it is, you have to use your own brains and figure out what needs to be done and how to do it and get it done. When you figure it out what to do and you mean it, the Rebbe will implant in you the right thought of what to do at the right time. If you're dedicated, devoted, the Rebbe will find a way to plant the right idea in your mind at the right time to know what you need to be doing. But that's only if you're connected. You got a bracha from the Rebbe told them, so then you'll be okay.
So you don't need
How about people that weren't around when the previous Rebbe was, when the Rebbe was around? Okay, the Rebbe passed away in Nundal. It's a while ago already. Some people in this room weren't born before; they were born after that. But when you connect to the Rebbe by learning his siches and maimarim and doing what the Rebbe wants, so then you get the bracha from the Rebbe. I mentioned this in a class this morning. There was a time people used to go into the Rebbe for yechidus, a private audience. Okay? I was married to, we used to go in every year for our birthday. So we went in for bar mitzvah, and then every year we would go in, and it was a 30-second yechidus, literally 30-second yechidus, and then the Rebbe stopped it. And then we used to go, I mean, then people went in, when a wife became pregnant, they would go into yechidus. In the 9th month, they would go into yechidus. There was a lot of people before the crowd became, about 1 year the Rebbe stopped it. That's it with the yechidus. So there was a Lubavitcher that had an important issue he wanted really to discuss with the Rebbe. So he wrote to the Rebbe that he needs a yechidus. He knows the Rebbe stopped it, but he needs a yechidus. So the Rebbe answered, I'm going to tell you the Rebbe's answer in Hebrew, what the Rebbe answered, and then I'll translate. Betach sheyisnai keminig adash la'achareina shenichnosim liyechidas be'esa hizvadus. The Rebbe said to him, I'm sure you will do what the custom is of the Chabad Chassidim. Recently, they enter Yechidas at the time of the Farbrengen. What does that mean in very simple language? You have an issue to discuss, you have a problem, you have an issue. Listen to the Rebbe's Farbrengen, the next Farbrengen listen to the Rebbe's Farbrengen, when the Rebbe was physically alive. Listen to the Farbrengen, your question will be answered. Your question will be, and the fact was that was true. People that had issues, important issues, somehow the Rebbe brought a one-liner or whatever it was, the Rebbe answered your question at the Farbrengen. And like after the previous Rebbe passed away in Tovshin Yud, the Chassidim asked the Rebbe, how are we going to get an answer now? The Rebbe is not here, just before the Rebbe officially accepted the leadership. How are we going to get answers now? The Rebbe is not here. So the Rebbe said, you go to the oil, you write your opinion, you write your letter, and the Rebbe wird sich gefunden Weg. The Rebbe will, the Rebbe meant the Fried Rebbe. The Rebbe will find a way to answer your question. You have an issue, learn a mimer. Some people go Igris, some people don't do Igris, whatever. That's a separate issue, it's not for now. But and you'll get an answer. The Rebbe will find a way to answer you. That's the first thing that we learn from the story of Teves, that every person, you have a mission to accomplish. You're fighting in court. What are you fighting in court? You're fighting the evil forces. You're fighting the Yetzer Hara. Okay, evil, Ra, rotten, shows keeps on Temes. How did the Fried Rebbe have such a person? Yitzchak had an Esav also. You know, these things happen. It happens. Yitzchak had an Esav. Avram had a Yishmael. There are a lot of great people who had pretty bad kids. It happens, but that's not the point. The Sfarim is a battle between good and bad. And we'll take it now after Enigma, we'll take it into a deeper level. There's a fight between good and bad. And they asked the Rebbe, what should we do? The Rebbe said, use your brain and go fight. To figure it out yourself, the method that you need to use to fight. They wish to give you a brain. Yeah, you're connected, you'll be guided by me. But you have to use your own brain to figure out how to do what you need to do. It's a very important lesson in life. The Rebbe is not spoon-feeding Chassidim. The Rebbe never believed in spoon-feeding Chassidim. That wasn't what the Rebbe did. The Rebbe taught Chabad, and now do it, Haksach Kop and Van, bang your hand against the wall, and go figure out what needs to be done. L'chaim, l'chaim.
Yeah, you like that.
Huh? One, yeah, give me.
He wants the cake. Yaakov, you don't want booze, you want the cake.
Chaim. There's a few more aspects coming up. Okay,
Why the Rebbe took it so serious?
I'll explain to you soon. You're in a rush?
No.
Okay,
no,
good.
that's-
As long as there's cake on the table, you can't
I'm
be in a
okay,
rush.
yeah.
Before they kick us out.
He's got till 6 o'clock in the morning.
The Rebbe once spoke the uniqueness of Yud Beis Tammuz over Yud Tes Kislev. Even though Yud Tes Kislev is Shoshana for Chassidus, but the Rebbe spoke there's a certain uniqueness to Yud Beis Tammuz over even Yud Tes Kislev when the Alter Rebbe was in prison. The Rebbe explained, by the Alter Rebbe's time, Yud Tes Kislev, the Goyim actually put the Alter Rebbe into prison. It was the Goyim that put the Alter Rebbe into prison. Yeah, Jews snitched to the government that the Alter Rebbe was helping Turkey because Alter Rebbe was sending money to Israel, and Israel was under Turkey at the time, and Russia and Turkey were at war with each other. So they said to the Russian, but it was basically Goyim got the Alter Rebbe into prison. Yud Beis Tammuz, it was the Jewish communists that got the Rebbe into prison. And the Rebbe said that's worse. Why? Because Goyim don't have free choice. Only in their 7 mitzvahs do they have free choice. Otherwise, they have no free choice. Jews have free choice. So therefore, when the Goyim got out the Rebbe in prison, it wasn't something done with free choice. It was supposed to happen. It happened. When Jews do it, it's much worse because they have the free choice to do it, and they chose to do evil and put the Alter Rebbe into prison. In that respect, Hey Teves is even worse. Or greater. Which, I mean, with the worst in the beginning and the end is greater. Why? Because here you're already dealing with family. It's not Stam Jews. You're dealing with family of the Rebbe's family. Yeah, you're still a grandson of the Friedrich Rebbe. So when family starts, that's much worse than Yidden doing it, and definitely much worse than when Goyim doing it. So in this respect, really, the kitrug, the decree, because it came from family, was much deeper than when it came from Jews, and definitely deeper than when it happened by. But Rabbi Yosef, when he was Farbrengen, then the original Heitam was, he brought out a very interesting point. Let's have a little Chassidus class now. There's Ma'or, which is the source of light, and there's Or, light. Obviously, Ma'or, which is the source of light, is much greater than Or, than the light itself. Yutis Kislev, what was the battle? It wasn't against the Alter Rebbe. It was against Chassidus, right? We said spiritually, what was the decree of Yutis Kislev? Not that Alter Rebbe snitched, but spiritually, what was the Gzeira? It was against the dissemination of Chassidus. Chassidus is called Chassidus. Chassidus is light. It was a fight against Or, against the light. Hey Teves wasn't a fight against the light, it was against Ma'or. It was against the source of light, which is the Rebbe. The Rebbe is the source of Chassidus, not the revelation of Chassidus. And I'll explain in a second. And the Rebbe alluded to this in some of the sichos that you see on the tape, if you understand what the Rebbe is actually really saying, not besides the words. What the Rebbe is actually saying is like this. This was a battle. Basically, what was the battle? The battle was what is a Rebbe? The question basically is, to the core question, what is a Rebbe? Is a Rebbe just a leader of Chassidim, and therefore he has his things and the Chassidim have their things, and there's this connection, so to speak, between the two? Or is the essence of the Rebbe what the Chassidim are? Meaning the Rebbe has no entity of himself, but the relationship that he has with Chassidim. And that was the question in the court. It wasn't the question, who do the books belong to? That's not relevant. That wasn't the issue that the Rebbe was so pained by. And the Rebbe went to the oil, and the Rebbe was screaming and painful. If you really saw the Rebbe's face and listened to the other seer, the Rebbe was screaming painfully. Okay, and it really affected the Rebbe tremendously. You should go to every day of the trial, 3 weeks in a row. Chanukah went to the, 3 weeks, Mama straight, that I went every day to the oil. What was the question over here? The question over here is not what is Chassidus. Can Chassidus be disseminated or taught or not taught? The question is, what is Rebbe? What is Ma'or? What is the source of revelation? Is a Rebbe a separate entity, which you find in a lot of different places? He's an entity. Or is a Rebbe somebody that is no entity by himself? He is the Chassidim. I'll give you another example. Even by the Rebbe himself. I mentioned this a number of times already. Are you aware, if you heard it, but when the Rebbe passed away, the Rebbe passed away penniless. Penniless.
Practically?
Huh?
Really?
Yeah.
No money?
No. The Rebbe never had money.
The Friedrich Rebbe also, he never had it.
Yeah. But by the Rebbe didn't even own his house.
Who owned it?
Merkus. It wasn't the Rebbe. The Rebbe did not own his house. Merkus owned the house. The Merkus and Yonei Chinuch, they bought the Rebbe's house and they paid the mortgage. Obviously, after so many years, it was paid off. But the Rebbe did not own the house. The organization of Chabad, the central organization of Chabad. The Rebbe passed away with the clothes off on his back. That's it, basically. Because the Rebbe didn't have, there was nothing. The Rebbe said the Sfarim also belong to the Chassidim. Everything belongs to the Chassidim. In the Rebbe's so-called will, the Rebbe left over everything to Agudas Chassidim Chabad. Because it was anyway Agudas Chassidim Chabad. Hey, Teves is a battle against the whole concept. Is a Rebbe or isn't he a Rebbe? And what did the judge rule? The judge ruled that a Rebbe is the Chassidim. That's what a Rebbe is, the Chassidim. There's no separate entity, there's no personal, there's nothing of his own. Like the Rebbe said, my father belonged to the Chassidim. And that was a fight, not against the revelation of Chassidus, not against disseminating Yiddishkeit in Russia and in the Friedrich Rebbe's time. This was a battle against the whole concept of Rebbe. What is a Rebbe? So the grandson said, a Rebbe is like a normal person. He had inheritance, and I'm a kid, and I get inherit, and they don't, and this and that and that. That's what it was a question in a much deeper level. It's not a question, who do the books belong to? That's not that's not the issue. The issue is, what is a Rebbe? He was saying a Rebbe is a regular human being that owns things and therefore gives them as an inheritance. And the Rebbe screamed that the Rebbe is something that belongs to the Chassidim. And it's a much deeper battle than Yutas Kislev. It's a much deeper battle than Beis Tammuz. It was something that basically, there was never an issue until then. What is Chabad? Well, I mean, what is a Rebbe? Not Yutas Kislev, not Beis Tammuz, not any time. There was never a battle what the definition of a Rebbe is. What is a Rebbe? Is a Rebbe a human being that's an entity by himself, and therefore he has inheritance and this and that and that? Or is the Rebbe, Moshe Rabbeinu is the Sheish Me'as Elef Ragli, Ha'amah Sha'aneicha B'kir. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I am the Yidden. When the Yidden sinned in the ego, and Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu in Pashas Ki Sisa, he told them, Lech Reid, go down. And anybody knows Hebrew, you don't say Lech Reid. You say either Lech or Reid. What's the double expression? So Rashi quotes in the Medrash in Pashas Ki Sisa. Rashi says, Lech Reid Migdulascha. Lech, go, mean go down. Reid, you're going to go away, you're going to be lowered from your greatness. And Rashi continues in the Medrash, Klum nasati l'cha gdula el b'shvil Yisrael. I only gave you gdula because of the Yidden. The Yidden sinned, you are nothing. Go down of your kedusha. You are nothing. Moshe Rabbeinu, he didn't sin in the ego, he was up on the mountain. Hashem said to him, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're not a separate entity than the Jewish people. You are the Jewish people. If they're down, you're down. They're up, you're up. There's no you. Go down from your greatness. Because that's the definition of a Rebbe. That's what Teves says. And the Rebbe said the proof of this is from a letter that the Friedrich Rebbe wrote. Oh, right. So Barry, let's call him Barry, the grandson, said, listen to this chutzpah. He said two things that the Rebbe was screaming about. The Rebbe was screaming about, and the judge Taka mentioned one of the things in the ruling. Barry said two things. First of all, he said the Friedrich Rebbe is dead already 35 years. So he's way out of here. You know, he goes up again, way far up from here. And the second thing he said was this, that the previous Rebbe wrote in the letter that the Sfarim belonged to the Agudas Chassidic Chabad. He didn't mean it. He just wrote it that they should be able to get the books out. But he didn't mean it. Okay? Those two things the Rebbe really screamed about. And the Rebbe said, this you see if you watch the later Sikhs, the Rebbe was screaming. He says, how can you say 35 that he's already not here? And therefore, the Rebbe said, on the contrary, 35 years, every year he's closer and closer and closer. And the Rebbe was screaming, how can you say such a stupid statement that the Friedrich Rebbe is 35 years away from here? The Rebbe said, on the contrary, 35 years he's closer and he's closer and he's closer. Every year that there's another yard type makes the Rebbe closer to us. And the Rebbe said that. And then, by the way, the judge in the decision used that letter, by the way, as the ultimate proof that the Sfarim belonged to the Chassidim, not to the previous Rebbe. And he said, you hear it on the thing, on the tape, on the recording, that the judge said that a man of the previous Rebbe's stature would never say something that wasn't true. No matter what. He would never say something that wasn't true. And therefore he said, therefore the Friedrich Rebbe himself says the books belong to the Aguch Chassidim Chabad, and therefore that's what it is. That was the sort of his ruling. That was the foundation of his ruling, was that letter that the Rebbe told L'chatchila that they should look into that letter. But what is Hey Teves for us? It was a battle against the definition of a Rebbe. So now that Hey Teves came, it didn't went yet. It came, it didn't go yet. It's still here forever. What does Hey Teves mean? That a goy, the judge, Sifton, yeah? Sifton. A goyish judge ruled. That means he has not even free choice to make a ruling. Because a goy has no free choice, only in a Sheva Mitzvah. It's not one of the Sheva Mitzvahs b'nei Neach. A goy makes a ruling that there's no free choice, meaning it's coming directly from Hashem. And what is Hashem saying? That the Rebbe is one, that's one with the Chassidim, he belongs to the Chassidim. That's what it means. What does it mean for me and you? L'chaim. The Rebbe said by one of the rallies that they should sing Ufaratsta. And the Rebbe was really making with his hands.
Ufaratsta, na 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 na.
Right? You everything did not something. Ufaratsta,
Ufaratsta, Ufaratsta, Ufaratsta, Yamma
V'geima Zaveina
V'neigma. Ufaratsta, 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 Yamma V'geima Zaveina V'neigma. Ufaratsta, Yamma V'geima. Ufaratsta, V'neigma. Is the book that are held in Russia connected with this? That's New York Times.
Not directly with this, no.
Huh?
The Rebbe wants him back also, but that's a whole different story.
same book, no?
No.
But Rabbi, even if, let's say, God forbid, the case was lost, and he got 770 also, Hasidim would just
Destroy him.
No,
He was going after 770?
The Rebbe would still be Rebbe.
He was going after the asset of
Rebbe,
everything.
by one Shabbos Farbrengen,
In the library.
during the trial, at one Shabbos Farbrengen. By the way, I want you to know, to the Rebbe's brother-in-law's credit, he basically did not take his son's side.
Right away.
Right away. The Rashab took the Rebbe's side. Barry's mother took his side, Barry's side.
Yeah, it's his son.
Okay, it's his son, but this is a father. The Rashab took the Rebbe's side. In fact, by one Shabbos Farbrengen, during the trial, Rashab went over to the Rebbe in the middle of the Farbrengen by the singing.
He started yelling.
And he said to the Rebbe, maybe we can make a deal with him.
Deal?
Maybe make a deal. And normally, by a Farbrengen, when the Rebbe spoke Siches, his hands were always under the table. In the earlier years, you see, he was holding the mic. In the later years, much, the same time in New York, it's like that. The Rebbe, when he spoke in Siches, his hands were always under the table. And you see his moving hands under the table. But the Rebbe became extremely animated. Again, I wasn't in New York, I was here, but the way it's written up in the things. The Rashak came up to the Rebbe and said, maybe you can make a deal. And the Rebbe was screaming, we're not making any deals. We're going for the truth. We're not giving in. There's nicht today, nothing more to talk about. And the Rebbe was very animated with his hands.
Why did he bring it up in front of Farbrengen, in front of all these
Because
people?
he wanted, he just...
Oh, his son.
It's his brother-in-law, he went over to him. But that's what he wanted to do. And the Rebbe emphatically said, there's not I don't want to use the Rebbe, over my dead body it's not happening. Like the American expression that obviously the Rebbe didn't say. But it's something that the Rebbe said is not going to happen.
Rashad stayed married afterwards?
They didn't get divorced, but she wasn't in the house anymore. When she passed away, she's not even buried in the Lubavitcher cemetery. She's buried by Munkach in New Jersey. And in fact, the Rebbe wanted that she should be buried in the Lubavitcher Chelik, but they didn't want.
She wanted that her husband should be the Rebbe, but what did the Rebbe say in the Hamadina say who should be Rebbe?
Let's not get into those issues. It's not totally irrelevant now. Anyway, so coming back to Teves. So what does it mean for us that, so to speak, the Rebbe and Chassidim are one thing? Yeah? We're one thing. Many people have a problem with the whole concept of Rebbe. Many people in the non-Hasidic world, non-Hasidic, not even the other Hasidim, the non-Hasidic world, they either say it, or they think it, or they mean it, that it's a form of idol worshipping. You hold the Rebbe in such high esteem, what he says goes, aren't you worshipping? Aren't you worshipping, isn't it Avodah Zarah, isn't it worshipping, so to speak, the Rebbe as a god? Besides the fact that it's idiotic to think that, it's partially brainless. Why? Because Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, is one body. You find that in Chazal. In Zohar it says that the Ovis were the head, and the Zohar said we're called Ikvis the Mashiach, the heels right before the coming of Mashiach. And from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were the heads, coming down all the way down to the toenails, the heels. You have all the generations in the middle. So there are a generation that were called heads and hearts and feet and toenails and we're ingrown toenails, by the way. We're not the heels, we're the ingrown toenails. We're pain. But every generation, says in Kabbalah, and it's hinted to in Midrashim, in Gemara, even it's hinted to, that a Rebbe is the head of Klal Yisrael. We're one big body. Every generation, the Jews are one big body. We're not different bodies. We're one body. I mentioned this many times. You have a pain in your foot. and you go to the doctor. And the head says to the doctor, I have a pain in my foot. The doctor doesn't say to the head, excuse me, do you have a power of attorney to speak for your foot? Who gives you the right to speak to for your foot? I never heard of. Do you ever do that? Not yet. Maybe he does it. You don't. The doctor doesn't say. Or if you go to the doctor and when you have a pain in your foot, you don't walk into the doctor's office and stick up your foot. You say, sir or ma'am, depending who your doctor is, I have a pain in my foot. So the question is, who gives the head the right to speak for the foot? Why don't you need a power of attorney from the foot for the head to speak? It's obviously it's ridiculous. Because when do you need a power of attorney if you're a separate entity? Me and you are separate people, and I need a power of attorney from you. But in the same body, you're one thing, you're one entity. The head doesn't need a power of attorney for the foot, and the foot doesn't need a power of attorney from the head. It's one body. A Rebbe, Reish B'nai Yisrael, which is the acronym for Rebbe, as everybody knows, is not a separate entity. He's Rosh B'nai Yisrael. He is the head of the Jewish people. We are his feet, his hands, his stomach, his heart, whatever you want to call it. But we are one entity. And that's what we need to keep in mind. The Rebbe, somebody asked a question, was a very interesting question on Miftzon. They asked, you really want to go out put on tefillin with people you don't want? The Rebbe wants, so you're doing what he wants you to do, but you don't want the guy to put on tefillin. Come on. The Rebbe wants him really to put on tefillin, therefore you're just his shikingel. You're his messenger to go do the job to get the guy to put on tefillin. That's not true. Why isn't that true? Because what the Rebbe wants is what I want, in essence. I might not think that way, but that's only in thinking. In my essence, why? Why? Because the Rebbe is my essence. We are one body. What's the essence of the Bnei Yisrael? The head is the essence of the Bnei Yisrael. Therefore, when the Jews go down, Lech Reid, Moshe Rabbeinu goes down. My essence is really, to put it in Chassidic language, to make it very clear, there's something called Yechidah Shebenefesh, the Pinta L'Yid, the Nukudat HaYahadut, the essence of the Jew. Yeah, that's what our essence is. The Rebbe is Yechidah of Klal Yisrael. That's what the fact is. The Rebbe is Yechidah of Klal Yisrael. And I mentioned it also today in the class, but we'll mention it again. We mentioned it the previous times also. When you go into the Rebbe for a private audience, it's called Yechidus. Yechidut. He's from Israel. Yechidut or Yechidus. Why is it called Yechidut? Because simply, Yechidut means a private audience. Yochid, private. 4 eyes, like they say. It's private. Chassidus defines it differently. Yechidus is plural of Yechidah. By a Rebbe, because of his greatness, Yechidah Shebenefesh, his essence is always revealed. By us, it's not revealed. Time Mesiras Nefesh, we reveal it. But not in time Mesiras Nefesh, you do Seichel Midas. If you could be a very frum Jew, you could be a very super frum Jew, you can go to the Siyam and Daf HaYomi with another 100,000 Yidden Ken Yibu. You could be a big scholar, but that doesn't mean Yechidah Shebenefesh is revealed. When a Chassid goes into the Rebbe for Yechidus, and like the Rebbe's Chassidim would prepare 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and they would mamish work on themselves to refine their character for 10 years, 15 years, mamish to work over their character to refine it, and they went into Yechidus, then the Rebbe revealed your Yechidah. And that's what happened in Yechidah. You revealed your Yechidah, and therefore it's called Yechidut. The Rebbe's Yechidah, revealing your Yechidah. And therefore, as the Rebbe writes in a Yom Name about the Rashbats, that Chassidim would consider the day they went into the Rebbe for the first time for Yechidus, they called it their birthday. They celebrated that as a birthday. They celebrate the regular birthday too. You didn't become bar mitzvah 13 years after you went into Yechidus. But they would consider the day they went into the Rebbe for Yechidus the first time, that was the birthday. Why? Because that's when the Rebbe tapped into the essence of the Jew. So, it's our essence. It's not, God forbid, that we're worshiping. It's like the foot is accused of worshiping its own head. It's a ridiculous statement. The foot doesn't worship the head. It's the head of the foot of the head, and it's one thing. The foot does its function, the head does its function, the hands do that's their function. That's it. It's one body, though. What does it mean that the Rebbe in the Chassidim is one thing? What Teves proved, so to speak, that even the Goy ruled in the secular court. Le'inei ha'amim, that the Rebbe is what the Chassidim, and there's no personal separation between the Rebbe and the Chassidim. It means, very simply, we need to realize our mission in life is to serve Hashem. That's a given. Any from a Jew, ask him, why are you here? Let's say to serve Hashem. But there's millions and billions of different ways of serving Hashem. Some people emphasize davening, some people emphasize learning, some people emphasize this, some people emphasize that. And every person has their own unique way of serving Hashem that nobody else could go. The Alter Rebbe in the Akdama of Tanya, in the introduction of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe quotes the Ramban. When it says about Yeshua, Ish asher ruach bay, a man, Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Hashem, take Yeshua because he's an Ish asher ruach bay. And the Ramban quotes from the Gemara, he says, he goes, he's able to figure out the spirit of every Jew in simple English. He's able to tell every single Jew what they need for their particular Ava. Of course, every Jew has to keep all mitzvahs. But what's your unique thing? Your unique thing is what the Rebbe is going to tell you to do. The guidance that you get. That means the Rebbe is me, I'm the Rebbe. It's not, God forbid, idol worshipping. It's my own body. I'm allowing my essence to be dictated by my essence. My essence is dictating my essence. I mentioned in Shul many times a story that I was personally involved in with an answer of the Rebbe, not to me. You'll hear what the story is. It wasn't me. I mentioned this many times in Shul by Farbrengens. There was a boy and a girl here in LA that wanted to get engaged. So the custom was they would write separately. The boy would write, even when we got engaged, right? I wrote a tzeta, whatever, I want to get engaged to this girl, and the girl writes a tzeta, I want to get engaged to the boy. And most of the time, the Rebbe said yes. Sometimes he said, Teva shidduch, Yafa shidduch, whatever the answers of the Rebbe were. There were times the Rebbe said no. There were times the Rebbe said it's not a good shidduch. There's one shidduch here in LA. The boy wrote in, he wants to get engaged to the girl. The girl wrote in, she wants to get engaged to the boy. The Rebbe answered the boy yes, and the girl no. It's not funny. But the Rebbe answered him, no, this brings out, and this I was involved in the answers. In fact, the guy freaked out. He said, what's that? For me, yes, but it takes two to get, it takes two to tango. I mean, what does it mean that the Rebbe says, me, yes, and her, no? So he wrote to the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe, what is that supposed to mean? How can you tell me yes and her no, when obviously we, come on. And the Rebbe answered in Hebrew, but the Rebbe answered, don't you know that sometimes a shidduch is good for one of the parties, but not for the other party? That means, what the Rebbe said to him like this, for you, it's a good shidduch. For her, it's not a good shidduch. So obviously, just think a second. Obviously, the answer is no. They didn't get engaged, right? Because the girl was told no. So why didn't the Rebbe just answer no to both? The Rebbe, what would you answer if you say, no, it's not a good shidduch? Yeah? The Rebbe didn't answer, no, it's not a good shidduch. Because the Rebbe doesn't answer this. The Rebbe answers you, and me, and you, and you, and you, and her. The Rebbe answers you as an individual. And the Rebbe is a meirindik proof of this whole concept. The Rebbe said, for you, for your neshama, it's good. For her neshama, it's not good. Obviously, the Rebbe knew they're not going to get engaged. But the Rebbe said, for you, that's a good shidduch. But for her, it's not. Why? Because the Rebbe is answering my essence, and your essence, and his essence, and her essence. The Rebbe is answering what's good for you. And therefore, sometimes two people can ask the Rebbe a same exact question, and one person the Rebbe will say yes, and one person the Rebbe will say no, or one person the Rebbe will say whatever it is. Because the Rebbe is not answering collective. The definition of a Rebbe is Keneged Ruchei Shokol Echad Ve'echad. The Rebbe is answering every single Jew. Which means what I get is mine. What you get is yours. The fact that the Rebbe and Chassidim are the same thing, it's one, means that the Rebbe is within each one of us. It's called the Yechida Shebenefesh. Just like there's an individual complete person, there's a Klal Yisrael complete person. Right? There's Klal Yisrael is a body, head, feet, this, and every individual has a head, feet, and this. What's my essence of my neshama? Yechida. What's the essence of the Jewish people's neshama? That's the Rebbe. That's the Rebbe, Yechida Shebenefesh, Yechida Kloli. It's Yechida of the entire Jewish people. Therefore, what does Teves teach us in this respect? That we need to understand there was a decree against the essence of Rebbe Chassid relationship. The judge ruled what the correct relationship is between a Chassid and a Rebbe. So what does this mean? Besides the fact that the Rebbe wrote Hey Teves, obviously because the decree was against books, you have to learn more. Besides the fact that the Rebbe said on Hey Teves you should buy books. And all the stores have book sales. Because Hey Teves you're supposed to buy books. But the Rebbe writes the purpose of the books, obviously, to learn them. In fact, when they finally brought back the books, after the appeal was over and they brought back the books to some 70, the Rebbe was at the oil. So they told the Rebbe that the books came back. The Rebbe said they should pick 3 random svarim. 3 random svarim. Which they did. And they were brought to the Rebbe at the oil, and one sefer the Rebbe told they should reprint, America should reprint that book, and the Rebbe spoke things about whatever. But the point is, we have to understand what is our relationship. What do we need to do? What we need to do is to be connected. Connected. There's a lifeline which comes from the head. The nerve center is the head. We can't afford to be cut off from the head. So before Hey Teves, there was a possibility the head was one part of the body, and the rest of the body is a different part of the body. And Hey Teves says it's all one. It's all one entity. And therefore, what does this mean? All of us have a mission in life. We all have a mission in life. We learned in Chassidus, David Malach says in Tilim, Hashem mitzadi gever kinonu. From Hashem, the footsteps of man are planned. Yeah? From Hashem, the footsteps of man are planned. So the Friedrich Rebbe says in a Maimer like this. Tzadikim, is he 21 yet? Where is he? Aaron, you're 21? Yeah. Prove it. Let me see your ID. A mother once went into the liquor store with her teenage daughter. She wanted to buy a bottle of whiskey. So the guy asked her for her ID. She got so excited, she just ran out of the store. She forgot what she wanted to buy. And he asked her for ID. He comes in with a teenager. Okay. What we were saying, short-term memory doesn't work anymore. Anyway, so we're saying like this. All of us have a mission. So the Friedrich Rebbe says in the Mayim like this. All people, we don't know where our mission is. We don't know. So Hashem leads us. You're here, your parnasa is here, your job is here, your family is here, this is here, this is there. Hashem gets you. I mean, everybody in this room basically lives in this area. Okay, let's call it Beverly Hills. Which means every person in this room's mission is in Beverly Hills. That's where their place in the world is to elevate. That's the mission. How do we get to Beverly Hills? How does Hashem get us here? So, some of us have a mother-in-law here. Some of us have a job here. Some of us have whatever. We all have things here that cause us to be here. Why do we have a job here? Not because this is where our job is. Because this is the mission we have in life, is in this part of the world. How does Hashem get us there? He gives us a job there. So therefore we end up in this part of the world. Tzaddikim, the Rebbe says in the Maimer, Tzaddikim know lechatchila, to begin with, where the mission is, and they go there. They know where it is, and that's where they go. Other people that don't know that, so Hashem Siba makes causes, he gets everybody where they belong. But we all have missions to accomplish. Every person that's existing in this world, by the way, Goyim also, they have a mission to accomplish. It's not the same mission of Torah mitzvahs. It's their mission to civilize the world. That Sheva mitzvahs b'nei nech are all civilization mitzvahs. To civilize the world. To make the world a non-jungle. So, it means like this. Every one of us has a mission. How do I know what my mission is? How do I know what my mission is? So if a person is connected to a Rebbe, they find out from the Rebbe what my mission is. You have an issue, you mean it, you write into the oil, you write into the Rebbe, you will get an answer, somehow. The Rebbe said, the Rebbe will find a way to answer you. And countless people went to the oil and they asked a question and they came out of the oil and they got an answer. They saw something happened, somebody asked them a question. Whatever it was, they came out of the oil, they got an answer. We have this I mentioned also, but not everybody heard this. There's this guy that just walked in over here. Shimshon. He once went into the oil. Can I tell the story? Okay. He went into the oil and he wrote to the Rebbe he wants to have Hasidic children. Right? Am I telling you right? He wrote to the Rebbe, you want to have Hasidic children. He came out of the oil. In the room over there, there's the video playing of the Rebbe. So he walks into the room and the Rebbe is speaking to Shimshon Stak. Shimshon Stak was a very interesting human being, an unbelievable Baal Chesed. He lived 2 doors away from my in-laws. I heard a lot of him, not about him, of him. Anyway, so the Rebbe said on the video to Shimshon Stak, Shimshon, the Rebbe said in Yiddish, Shimshon, you want to have Chassidic children? Become a Chassid yourself. That's what the Rebbe answered him. Tell me, you couldn't get a better answer, clearer than that?
You just answered too.
Huh?
The bug that just...
The bug also sparked. It sparked.
One of his children?
You can't, huh? You can't get a clip. You know how many stories people tell me that they went out of the oil, they asked the Rebbe a question, and they came out of the oil, and somebody spoke to somebody, and Mam's got an answer. We want to know, we want a bracha for our mission. We want a bracha for your mission, even if we know what our mission is. You need a bracha for the mission. You know what? You write to the Rebbe. It's not a separate entity. He's my own head. He's my communicator. The foot can't communicate to the doctor. The head needs to communicate. The Rebbe's are communicated with up there, the guy upstairs. And you go, and the Rebbe will guide you, and the Rebbe will give you a bracha, and you'll be successful. But there's one prerequisite. You gotta believe it works. If you don't believe it works, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work on Saturday. You want it to work, you have to have emunah that it's going to work. And then it works. It's a very important thing, because the Rebbe is us. That's what Teves is all about. There was a decree not against Or, not against Chassidus, not against whatever. It was a decree against the whole definition of a Rebbe. Is a Rebbe a separate entity, or is a Rebbe our existence? And the ruling is, and even the appellate court threw out the appeal, and they kept the first judgment, that this is what a Rebbe is. The books belong to the Chassidim because my father belonged to the Chassidim. And then they dan Natzach. Then we win. Ya 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 da 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 dan. Ya 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 da 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 ya da 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 no sa la da 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 no sa la da 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 ya da 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 By the way, somebody just brought a part of this to me. This is double black Johnny Walker. In the back on the barcode, the last three numbers are 770. Now, that's what he saw. Let me take it a little bit further. Johnny Walker. What's Johnny? You heard the song, hey, Johnny, 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 why do you go to the market? You don't buy, you don't sell, all you do is trouble. Okay, anyway. So Johnny is a concept of Yaakov Holach Ladarke. Jack hit the road. Johnny is Johnny, Yaakov. What does it mean, walker?
It was a chassid.
A Jew has to always be a mahalech, a goer, a walker, not like an angel that stands in the same place. And this is double black Johnny Walker. Not the red Johnny Walker, not what's the double black. So anybody in money knows, sometimes you're in the red and sometimes you're in the black. And when you're in double black, it's an abundance of parnasa. So this is what we can look.
Where the bracha come from?
The bracha comes from 770. Well, this is what this bottle means. Blended Scotch whiskey, because you need to blend in harmony. Then you get double black and you become a Johnny Walker.
Wow.
You want this?
And you know what? This product doesn't finish. It's already 2 weeks. It's still boring.
So some say it's like the jar of the oil, you know? It lasted.
Not the jug of oil Hanukkah. That was only 8 days. The lady in the Haftarah of Aisha Shunamis. That, as long as there were kalim, as long as there were vessels, it kept pouring. No, guys, say l'chaim. Let's go.
So what happened to the guy that got the answer and the girl didn't?
Nothing. They didn't get engaged. She married somebody else. He married somebody else.
Oh, that's such a trick.
No, but it brings out a burden thing how the Rebbe answers people.
Individual.
Huh?
Individual. It makes you think.
Double black.
Monday night.
No? Yaakov, say l'chaim.
I did already.
You walked here, drove here. Say Teves, the bracha should be in abundance.
Man.
To be able to be mamshech, mamshech the Aveda would be easy, to have a lot of money, to finish the project, and do what we need to do.
At least to
The
start.
Rebbe's sake.
Amen.
For the Rebbe. Now we do it. The Rebbe is doing us a favor. This is another important thing Chassidim need to realize.
Then we need
We
to start.
don't do the Rebbe a favor when we do what he wants us to do.
Right.
The only one we end up doing a favor to is ourselves. Bottom line. We don't do anybody. It's like we don't do God a favor when we do a mitzvah. We do ourselves a favor. When we listen to the guidance of the Rebbe, it's for our benefit, not for his benefit. The Chaim, everybody should have an abundance of atzlacha, and gesund, panos, and nachas,
Amen.
in an abundant
Health.
way.
Health.
That's gesund, gesund,
This
Yiddish.
one means health.
Gesund means health. Chaim.
For all the shluchim. That's bad.
What is this?
Is it?
Hey, ding it.
No.
Okay, what's going on here?
Take a seat, guys. The Farbrengen is starting now.
Sure.
Chakras.
The Rebbe once spoke. The Rebbe once spoke that Yud Beis Tammuz is hikdem refuah lamaka. The Gemara says in Megillah that before Haman rose to power, Hashem made the net. Mordechai was able to save Achashverosh's life. So before Hashem plants the illness, he already plants the remedy. The Rebbe said, Shavasa b'Tammuz, 17th of Tammuz, when they broke through the wall of Yerushalayim, destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, that follows Yud Beis Tammuz. Yud Beis Tammuz, the Friedrich Rebbe got out of jail because of his Avos Yisrael. The Rebbe said many times that Avos Yisrael, Yud Beis Tammuz, is the prerequisite and the refuah before the mak of Shavasa b'Tammuz. We can also say, hey Teves is the refuah before the mak of Asara b'Teves. Next week, Tuesday, is Asara b'Teves. It's a fast day. Even though it's a very short fast to here in America, but go to Australia, it's very long. There's summer there now, so it's much longer days. There's an interesting, the Rebbe always quoted the Avud Raham. The Avud Raham brings a proof from a pasuk that says, Ba'etzem Hayem Hazeh. What happened to Asara b'Teves? Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, made a siege around the city of Yerushalayim for 3 years. 3 years later, Shavasa b'Tammuz, they broke the wall, and then Tisha B'Av, they destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. So Avud Raham writes that if, according to our calendar, Asara b'Teves can never be Shabbos. But Avud Raham writes, if it would be Shabbos, we would fast even on Shabbos. That's what Avud Raham writes, because it says the Ba'etzem Hayem Hazeh, like by Yom Kippur, whatever. This is what he holds.
So
The birth doesn't in our calendar, it can never happen.
on Friday we fast.
Friday we fast, yeah.
Only fast.
Huh?
Only fast.
Only fast, we fast on Friday, when Shavasa b'Teves falls out on Friday. The other fasts can't. Anyway, the bottom line is like this. What is the concept of Nebuchadnezzar making a siege around the wall of Yerushalayim? Yerushalayim, we learned, Teves says, Chassidus brings it down a lot. Yerushalayim is 2 words, Yira Shalem, complete level of fear of Hashem. This level of fear of Hashem needs to have a wall around it, protecting it. Otherwise, it can be influenced by foreign forces. So what did Nebuchadnezzar, the evil king, do? He made a siege around the city of Yerushalayim. He wanted to conquer the beginning of the destruction. In fact, Avud Raham writes, why would we fast? Why would we fast Asara b'Teves fell on Shabbos? Because it's the beginning of the destruction. Happened Asara b'Teves. That's when he started making the wall around the city. So what's the kind of Nebuchadnezzar Melech Bavel making a siege around the city? He wanted to destroy the Yira Shalem of the Jew by circling the city with Goyishkeit, with non-Jewish things. The pasuk says Ani Chayma, wherever the pasuk is, for those that know Tanakh. And the Gemara says Ani Chayma. What do you mean? I'm a wall. What does Chayma refer to? Zu Torah. It refers to Torah, which means Torah is the wall that protects the Yerushalayim. What protects the neshama that has this complete fear of Hashem? It's the wall around the city of Yerushalayim. Sometimes the Yetzer Hara comes, Melech Bavel, the evil forces, the internal evil forces, and want to make a wall of Goyishkeit around the wall of Torah. Meaning, they want to influence Torah in a negative way, with Goyishkeit, by putting Goyim all around the city of Yerushalayim, the wall, meaning to affect the Goyishkeit, bringing Goyishkeit into the world. So therefore, that's the Makkah. What's the refuah? Is Hey Teves. What's Hey Teves? That Goyim realize what Torah and Chassidus is all about. The Goy ruled on Hey Teves what Chassidim are, what a Rebbe is, what Torah is, and that's what it is. So this is the healing before the sickness, before the plague of Asara B'Teves. It's the level of the refuah, which is Hey Teves. That's the way the Eibishter set it up in the calendar days. But the bottom line of this whole thing is very simple. We need to connect. We need to connect. We need to connect to our own source, to our own neshama. We have to tune in the body to feel the neshama, and that the neshama should influence the body. We can't have two separate entities in a constant battle of body versus soul and soul versus body. It doesn't work. What we need to have is to synchronize the neshama and the body, that the goyishkeit and the yiddishkeit become one, dominated by the neshama over the body, not the body over the neshama. Sometimes it's very difficult. It's very difficult for a human being to have the soul dictate the body. Because we're human beings. We got bodies, we have yetzaharas, we are pretty strong, powerful ones. The uniqueness of a Jew and the purpose of a Jew is not to allow the physical temptations of the world to dominate the neshama. And that could be in many things. It could be Jews, it could be non-Jews, it could be family. Like Hey Teves is all about family. The family sometimes also wants to make problems. Hey Teves says, you know what? Families can't make problems. If you're doing what's right, then you have nothing to be afraid of. Why? It's just logically. Why should I allow somebody else, whoever that somebody else is, it might be a guy, it might be a Jew, it might be family, it could be anybody. Why should I allow somebody else to dictate my life when I could dictate my life? Who am I? Trust me, it's not our intellect, it's not our emotions, it's not our seichel, it's not our midas. Who is the real me? My neshama. That's the real me. And my neshama is the real me, and that's what I need to be dictating everything else of my life. I can't allow foreigners to dictate my life. And the foreigners could be Jews, Goyim, family, it doesn't matter. But they're not me. They're not me. We need to, after Hey Teves teaches us that even family can. And trust me, in Yiddishkeit, a lot of people in this room are aware of this, and know it, and live it, that families make a lot of problems for our observance. That's reality. Okay? That's reality. Families don't want us to do this, they don't want us to do that, they want us to be less so religious, this, cool it, you know. What does Hey Teves teach us? Even a family member that wants to get in the way of what needs to be done, he loses the battle. When? If you're firm and strong in your beliefs to know, as the Rebbe used to use the expression from the Friedrich Rebbe in Yiddish, what is the definition of self-sacrifice? Doesn't mean jumping off a roof, dying or getting killed. It means azay und nit anders. This is the way it's going to be and not any different. And let me tell you a little secret. At the beginning it's tough, very tough. But once the person themselves take the stand within themselves and make the resolution, the blank with everybody else, I would say, but I'm not recording. The heck with everybody else, once you make that resolution within yourself, things become much, much easier. When you are not certain, when you're not certain, and therefore you are affected by family members or friends or Yidden or Goyim, it doesn't matter who it is. When you are not certain of what you really need to be doing, then you are affected by all these people. But if you know what you want, and you know that this is a matter of life and death, if your family tells you this poison, not this, I'm saying, is very healthy for you to drink. Mamish poison is very healthy for you to drink. You say, well, I shouldn't set up with the family, it's not right, I mean, it's family after all, so I'm going to drink it. Okay, obviously nobody does that. So why when it comes to Yiddishkeit is any different? What's not kosher, what's not kosher, I don't mean only food, I mean general sense, what's not allowed according to Torah, that's poison. So what's the problem? The problem is the person themselves needs to make the resolution that I know for sure, without any doubt, that this is what I need to do. Once you come to that point, then everything else goes easier. Because then you don't care what they think, and you don't care what they say, and you don't care what they do. We said many times, today everything goes. But a normal person walking down the street and goes like this. Okay, either they're talking to somebody on the cell phone, but let's say they're no cell phone, and they're walking like this in the street, you think they're nuts. You want to lock them up. Yeah? A person drowning, God forbid, will make crazy motions to save themselves, to stay afloat. So think about it for a second. A guy that's drowning, person that's drowning, and is trying to stay afloat, so he's going to make these crazy motions to stay above water. He's going to think, maybe I shouldn't do it. Because that guy walking next to the ocean, next to the water, is going to think I'm nuts. Maybe I shouldn't do it because he might think I'm nuts. Yeah? Why won't any normal person think that? The very simple reason. This is my life I'm talking about. When it comes to I'm going to think what somebody else thinks of me, what somebody else tells me, what somebody else wants me to do. Who the heck cares what they want? I'm saving my life. And if I need to save my life, I'm going to do whatever it takes to save my life. In the spiritual world, it's the same thing. Torah mitzvahs is the spiritual life of the Jew. Non-Torah mitzvahs is the death of a Jew. Spiritually speaking, is the death of the Jew. If I know what I'm doing is right, and this is my life, why in the world should I care at all what somebody else is going to tell me? Yes, family is much more difficult. Family is much more difficult. But why should I care? Because it's my life. Why should I care what somebody else is going to say or think? I'm going to give my life based on what somebody else thinks and says? No way. And that's what we need to go away with from Hey Teves. Hey Teves, we need to go, I'll give you another simple example, and this applies to everybody. Years ago, it was easier because they had something called phone booths. The younger kids don't know what a phone booth is. The older, we know what a phone booth is. So there are times God had to go daven mincha in the airport or whatever. So they're embarrassed to daven in front of everybody. So what did they do? They went into a phone booth, put the receiver, they didn't put, God forbid, money in their thing because they weren't making a call. They went into the phone booth and they put the receiver they held the receiver and they davened. They shook, they didn't shake, but who cared? And you're talking, of course, you're talking on the phone, so you're talking. That people used to do that because they were embarrassed to daven publicly, so that was an easy way out. Thank God, phone booths are dead. Skadal v'yiskadash meraba. Phone booths are dead. So now, why did Hashem, I'll tell you why did God get rid of all the phone booths? Because Hashem wants that we should have the guts and the pride of a Jew, to daven in public. because this is my life. I should care. And today, Hashem made it from the other side. Hashem made it very easy. You know why? Everybody out there is doing retarded, crazy things. In the street, there's no normal people walking the street anymore. You walk next to somebody, you don't know if they're talking to you. They're talking, you turn around, huh? No, I'm not talking to you. I mean, crazy things they're walking in the street doing, the way they dress and the way they look and what they do. So Hashem made it easier. So if they're not embarrassed to be crazy in the street, why should we be embarrassed to do what our life is?
The Muslims do it. Block the traffic and...
Yeah, Mendel's backyard had a Muslim in it the other day. They put a blanket and started praying in Mendel's backyard.
How get it?
Huh?
How did you get it?
I don't know. The neighbor called them that there's somebody in your backyard with a Muslim praying.
It was not embarrassed.
Huh?
It was not embarrassed.
No. Okay, it's in the yard. Okay, it doesn't matter. He called the police. We're a big deal. But just think of it. Hashem is so kind. Hashem said, you know, guys, you don't even need a phone book to daven mincha. Because everybody does such crazy things. You ever go to the airport? Tell me there's one normal person in the airport? I don't see one normal person, including myself. I don't even see one normal person there. Everybody's doing crazy things. So why should a Jew be afraid to daven shachris or mincha, put on tefillin? Why? Why? This is my life. Hey Teves says even family, which is the most difficult of things to overcome. Teresa, hey Teves said family also can get in the way. Didan natzach, over family even, which is the most difficult thing to do. Why? Because I understand kihem chayenu ve'erech yameinu. This is my life. If it's my life, and that's what you have to first. I don't want to use the word convince yourself because Torah says you're convinced already. The Rambam says every Jew wants to do what's right. A Jew needs to know, and this applies to all of us. All of us have this certain fear of doing things in public, putting on tefillin in public. It was very good, by the way. The Rebbe Institute it's remarkable. Kids, even before Bar Mitzvah, are going at Mitzvahim. They're going putting on tefillin with people, and even kids that don't wear tefillin yet, they're going into the streets and putting on tefillin. Just think for a second. You know what guts and pride these kids are instilled with? Trust me, if you can go into the street and put tefillin on with somebody, you have no problem putting on tefillin in an airport. You don't. Because you have the guts to put it up with other people in the public domain. So why it instills, and this is what the Rebbe accomplished, unbelievable with Mitzvahim. The Rebbe made people have Jewish pride of Torah mitzvahs. That's what it's all about. The pride of Torah of mitzvahs, to be proud of the fact we're a Jew. By realizing we're connected, and if we're connected, then that's what we got to do. L'chaim. What are you complaining about?
It tastes so sweet.
You started niggling. Make sure you started niggling. No? Keliyata v'yedeka el kayare mimeka keliyata el kayare mimeka.
Eldad, I couldn't come to birthday.
Moshe said l'chaim. How about those two guys? The Kohen.
Your wives have to drive home already.
This is makeup for the birthday.
Here.
How did he?
I was gonna Farbrengen. Hey Teves. I said, hey Teves. Really is. Rabbi, how come people don't make a shturim about Hey Teves?
A what?
People don't make a big deal about Hey Teves.
Who doesn't? They give it to.
We're doing it already. I had to
No,
take this level. I didn't do the Tammuz.
LDD, what's up, bro?
In New York, they make a big mitzvah. People even a live through it.
People live for it in Crown
Live
Heights.
through it.
Last night they had Chase Taub and Simon Jacobson together.
How come in
Yeah.
Crown Heights in 770 it's huge?
No, I think they were
770 is really unreal. So over here it's like
I think
growing
it
up
was
in
them
the valley.
together,
They
followed by
got a few guys, young guys. Most shluchim don't do anything.
They do.
Really? I saw a flyer that was Chase Taub and Jacobson.
Yes.
Huh?
But the part is live. It's only
Huh? You have to make a bracha achrena. Don't forget to make a bracha achrena.